Hey up there, legal warriors. In this video, I'm going to cover what not to do if you're denied boarding to an airplane anywhere, but in particular to Washington State. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about a lot of people doing the wrong stuff. In this video, I'm going to tell you what not to do. So if you're interested in the state of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 25 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it, more people get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. Yes, a lot of bad stuff happens at airports, and as we might imagine, a lot of it has to do with people that have consumed too much alcohol. And I just took a long flight back from across the country, and I was binge watching a bunch of other, YouTube creators going over a real life video about, people sort of misbehaving at the airport. And we've had a few of those cases here. I didn't recognize happily any of our own clients on these other creators' channels, but I thought it'd be really important so I could put out what you should not do if you're in certain situations at the airport and you're not being treated fairly, or at least we think we're not being treated fairly. So what's the first thing we have to know about, boarding a plane, airports, TSA, stuff like that? Remember that the authorities get to set the rules. So for trying to get on a plane and Delta or Alaska Airlines, whoever says they don't want us to board, they want to disallow us boarding, we do not have some type of absolute right to enter that plane because we have a ticket. Similarly, if they want to throw us off the plane, they can do that too. And the remedy is not, I know my rights and you can't do this to me and all this. The remedy is you can try to go after them later, either through a lawyer, through a lawsuit if you've been discriminated against, right? If they're discriminated against a protected class, you could, leave bad reviews, you could contact management, but you don't want to try to vindicate your rights in your mind at that time and in that place, because what's going to happen is they're going to get a hold of the police. And let's say the police are called to a situation where you're either denied boarding for whatever reason, drinking too much is often what we see, or you're denied boarding because you're just running too late and they don't let you on, and they could let you on. It's right there. The plane is right there. Why can't I just go down there? And you get more and more agitated because you're under a lot of stress. I mean, we all get agitated. I just got agitated today in my own office. So things happen. But what we have to know is that we just have to live with the fact that these airlines are private businesses and they get to decide who flies or not in that instantaneous situation. If it's not fair, there are other remedies that you can address, not demanding to have your rights enforced at that time, because the police are going to show up and they're going to say, hey, they've denied you boarding, and now they're asking you to leave because you're at that point typically in a secured area and you don't have a ticket anymore because they've denied you boarding. What happens then? What goes wrong for people? They refuse to leave. They start yelling and screaming and just wanting to feel vindicated at a time, and that's a natural human behavior. And however, that's likely going to lead to possible criminal charges. So this is a criminal defense type channel. And so what criminal charges do we see? Well, depending on what state you're in, sometimes you'll see public intoxication if someone's drinking. That's not really what you'd see here in Washington State. In Washington State, you'd probably see something called disorderly conduct. So we have videos in this channel about disorderly conduct, but it basically means threatening people, creating a scene, using fighting words. To be constitutional in this state, you really have to use fighting words. Hey, I dare you to put your hands on me type stuff. And you see a lot of people do that type of thing if you watch all these other providers' videos. But disorderly conduct is a simple misdemeanor catch-all that these officers can use to try to remove you from the situation. But even more commonly, you're going to see criminal trespass. And so when someone tells you to leave, that's a police officer, you best be following those instructions and leaving. If you don't think it's fair what's going on at the time, what you don't do is try to fix it all in. I'm not leaving, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, because you're just asking yourself to be charged with the crime, and we don't need to have to deal with that, right? We need to just leave and then deal with the unfair treatment later. So criminal trespass, if you're in a building, that'd be first degree, maximum 1 year in jail. That's a big problem. Additionally, what we often see then is when someone all of a sudden now is getting arrested for criminal trespass. Well, if they're still fighting enough that they're mad and they're not leaving when they're being asked to leave by a police officer, now what do? Well, they resist arrest, right? Almost every time we're going to see resisting arrest. So if you're getting arrested by an officer and you don't like it, I would suggest, if you want to avoid more charges, is try to comply with this very uncomfortable, embarrassing situation as best you can, because for the most part, officers don't want more charges on people in these situations. It's just more work for them. And then if we see the situation where maybe we're not been arrested yet and we're leaving, but we're still fighting, we're still like interfering, or we're not the ones getting talked to by police, it's our partner, it's our wife, it's our husband, whoever, and we start interjecting on behalf of them. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. And the officer asks someone to back up and all these things. Now, that person, if you don't start listening and you're still interfering with the investigation, what's the officer going to do? They're going to hook you for obstructing a law enforcement officer. The law enforcement officer has the right to control the scene. Everything is based upon officer safety, right? We can't think about it, and the court doesn't think about it like us normal people, right? In the situation, the court thinks about in the situation, the officer has to control the scene because they don't know what's going to happen to them. They don't know who's going to attack them, who's going to, use some type of weapon on them. Well, if we're in an airport, hopefully they don't have a real weapon, but, they might have something that could get through to cause damage. But if we are talking to an officer in a way and not obeying their lawful orders, we might be hooked for obstruction at that point. Again, it's something you don't want to do. Another one we can see, let's say you made it to the plane and they want you to get off the plane, and that's going to be really embarrassing. It's best you just get off the plane. If you don't get off the plane, you're going to get hit with trespass, you're going to get hit with obstructing, and you may get hit with resisting if you're resisting officers removing you. And oftentimes officers are going to throw in a felony charge too. Oh, you resisted and you hit me, or you spit on me, or you kicked me. Whether you did or not, they may claim you did that. Now that's assault in the third degree in Washington State. That's a felony charge, and we don't need to deal with that. Additionally, you have to think about it. If we cause these problems, even though we feel like we've been wronged, or either due to alcohol or whatever reason, if we cause these problems, we're likely to get trespassed from the airport. That means we can't go back to the airport. We may not even be able to fly out of Seattle, out of SeaTac anymore at all. They can trespass you from that entire place. You don't have a right to travel on an airline, right? It's a privilege, and that could be taken away. And so what not to do? Don't demand to have your rights enforced right then. They're not going to be enforced. You're going to have remedies later. What not to do? Don't disobey what officers are telling us to do, even though we disagree, because, again, these private businesses have the right to refuse a service even if we have paid money. When I say the right, the officer's not going to say, you have to let this person on. Again, we might be able to sue them for money later. We might be able to get other remedies, but we can't deal with it right then. And finally, I think the last thing you have to avoid doing is interfering with anyone else that's dealing with this law enforcement situation, right? Even as a total outsider, let's say you're not related to it, you see all this stuff going on, you disagree with it, we think it's biased, we think there's racial issues or gender issues or any other type of issues going on, realize that if we interject ourselves into that situation and disobey lawful orders by officers, we may end up getting arrested now too. And you may not mind. It may be worth it to you, right, to stand up for yourself and stand up for others. But what I like to try to do in this situation is avoid people being charged with crimes, avoid people actually having to use our services, and then going at it in other ways. And remember, we know all this bad behavior in the eyes of the court, at least, it's on video, right? Everybody's got a body cam. And I've just watched so many videos here lately because I was on a long flight and, I can't get enough of my own line of work, apparently, that I could just count all the things each person could do differently. If you watch any of these videos too, you could probably see it too. And usually it's alcohol, overriding, it's other types of issues going on in their lives that makes it very angry. And if that's your situation, just try to live to fight another day, right? Try to de-stress, try to get yourself on the calmer state and realize that we can't change how unfair things are right now. No matter how much we scream about it, we have to deal with it later, and that way it's going to end up better for everyone. So I hope you found that useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you have a criminal problem, had a problem at that airport, we've dealt with that all the time. We dealt with it out of Everett, out of SeaTac. We've seen pretty much everything. If you have a problem, feel free to give us a call. If you get on board, we'll listen to what happened. We'll identify a way forward. We will be there for you. Thank you.